Clerk, we call the roll.
Machino.
Here.
Evans is absent. Pizer White absent. Moody.
Here.
O'Toole.
Here.
Schneider absent. And Mattimore.
Here. First order of business is approval of agenda and minutes. Any additions to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll take a motion.
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
I'll say.
Chris second. All those in favor? Aye. Carries unanimously. Planning Commission meeting minutes from 7/14/25. Any additions or objections?
Second.
Motion approved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's approved. Citizen comments on non-agenda related topics. Have we got any? Have we got any online? Not seeing any. We'll carry on. Planning Commission. Let's see, we have staff reports and comments. Derek, it's your floor.
Yes, Chair, Commission, just a quick bit of housekeeping. So remember, the Planning Commission along with planning staff will be at the Farmers Market on August 15th. Right now, I've heard from a couple of you all about attending some different times. I won't call your name out if you haven't, but if you want, come talk to me after the meeting and I've got the chart right here and I could fill you in. If you want to do it manually, I'll take care of it right here. So we'd like a few of you there during the different times if you can make it. If you're not, it's not a big deal, but it's nice to have you there. So second announcement, let's wish Ryan a happy birthday. It is his birthday. Thanks, Ryan, for being a good clerk. So
How?
I don't know. I don't believe we're allowed.
Not quite.
Yes, yep. This is exactly what he wished for.
Yeah.
So that's all I have for tonight. Thanks.
All right. Let's go with any disclosures, ex parte communications or conflicts of interest tonight. Hearing none, we'll go. Any current planning projects? No. Jared?
Chair, Commission, tonight we've got a conditional use. It's CUP 250006. It's for a property located at 222 East Baker Street. It's for Avid Corporation. This is a conditional use to allow for machining shops, light manufacturing and processing, and a dwelling live-work building within a kind of split zone piece of property between B2 and C2. The uses that I described are required to go through the conditional use process, which comes before the Planning Commission for approval. And so, as you'll see in the staff report, staff does recommend approval of the conditional use as provided and subject to the conditions that we have associated within the staff report. I'm going to kind of go through just some background, go through a little bit of the site, kind of what to expect. And then I know that we do have the applicant here, the applicant's engineers and representatives. If they would like to speak after I'm done, that would be great. And then, available for questions like we normally do. So this property, it is located where I said it's on Baker Street. It's kind of on the west side of 3rd Street. Baker, there's a couple blocks there before you hit the railroad tracks. If you've been in Laramie for some time, this was the old ARC recycling facility. It was a large metal building that was on the site. You could bring your recycling there. In 2016, the same owners and operation went through a conditional use permit, which was CUP 1607, to request renovations essentially to the existing building, the metal building there, with some modifications to allow for Avid Corporation. I'll let the applicant come up if you want to know a little bit more detail about their operations, but during the time in 2016 and more recently, this is a high precision machining shop company that they make components that require a high degree of tolerance. And so they're using CNC machines that are, enclosed within this building to produce whatever their clients need in terms of the machining process and whatever clients that they're serving at the time. And within these machines, they're kind of self-contained units. They're enclosed in the building. They have sound barriers, protection doors, things like that. This is kind of one of the projects that, if you remember, we've kind of looked at some of the different like high-tech manufacturing and some of those things as we kind of see this kind of transition in the traditional manufacturing of, lots of banging and, sparks flying and the things that you see in movies. That's really not what we're talking about here. Computer operated, pretty enclosed, pretty benign. And so at the time in 2016, they went through this process. They were looking at about half of the property here, which was where the existing building was located closer to 3rd Street. The site and the conditional use went through a process where you see the main building was modified, facades were changed, there was parking put out in front, there was some storage spaces designated in the back, there was some of the buildings used for storage in the back. Really with that, the conditional use was approved in 2016. And so fast forward to today, the request is being made to expand onto the existing building there. This would be an addition of about 5,000 square feet that would allow them to expand their kind of machining, manufacturing, kind of office space, which is that main building located at 3rd and Baker there, right at the corner. Additionally, the applicant is requesting use of the westernmost building on the site, which is kind of like an old loading dock area for dwelling, live, work use, which would allow for residential space with commercial space located within it. That's another use that does require the conditional use process. And you'll see there's some requirements in terms of definitions and requirements of percentages that are required for the dwelling component and living component. So you'll see in the materials, that has been met. So, sorry, I lost my place in my report here. So a few things to note about the current expansion. So with the 5,000 square foot expansion, that's going to be going to the south there, and we'll go up kind of close to the property line there on that south end, kind of filling the space behind the existing building. You're going to see remaining space on the site being open for some outdoor storage, which was similar to what we saw in the first conditional use. The buildings that are located on site being used for some internal storage. Those are the two kind of outbuildings, that not the dwelling, live, work building, but the other ones. You'll also see some improvements on the site, such as landscaping that'll go along that Baker Street side. Along the 3rd Street side, there's actually very limited space in there. There's a few inches. When I say inches, like we're talking like 10 inches, 15 inches, really not a whole lot of space to put landscaping in. You'll see kind of in the report, and I'll kind of dig in a little bit more on that. Just you'll have some fencing that goes along that 3rd Street side, kind of closing off the property, as well as matching fencing that'll go along the Baker side, screening all of the outdoor storage and that kind of storage yard from the remaining uses on the site. You'll see a parking lot on the front side there on that Baker Street side, a little bit of kind of in the middle of the property there, as well as some street and sidewalk improvements for an incomplete Baker Street that goes further to the west there up to the property line there. So we do want to point out that during kind of the original conditional use approval, we do know that some of the conditions were not completed. Back in 24, when this first kind of discussion of expansion of the site, it was noted that some of these things weren't ever finished. Some of the parking lot, some of the landscaping and things like that, as well as the certificate of occupancy for the main building. We have cleared up most of that, and through the CUP process that we're here before, we think it's the most appropriate way just to kind of clean things up, allow them to move forward, but make sure that we get everything taken care of that was part of that original CUP. A few things to kind of go through as well. Once again, the property is split zoned. On that front end along Third Street, Zone B2. The rest of the property further to the back is Zone C2. Because of that and the whole use of the property and the manufacturing and the dwelling, live, work components is why we do have to go through that conditional use process. So I'm going to go through just a little bit of the findings of fact and some of the main areas just to point out a few things. Ingress and egress to the property is pretty much going to remain similar to what we saw. Just to be clear, there's no access to Third Street. There is a curb cut over there that YDOT will require to be removed, curb and gutter put back in and fixed there, but no access to Third Street. Pretty much all access to the site comes off of Baker. You'll have existing access off of Baker. There's some head-in parking in front of the building that was pre-existing prior, even in the before 2016. You have a parking lot that's kind of located in the center there. And so that's kind of where you're going to have most of the access. At the end of the parking lot, there is a gate to kind of access the back end of the site as well. And so that's all pretty much remaining the same. That ingress and egress through that gate does also allow them access into to their trash enclosure, which is located back behind the buildings there. Off-street parking is one thing that we would like to discuss a little bit and point out. If you take a look, the applicant provided us a parking analysis for this site. The manufacturing use that we're talking about is pretty unique, and when you do our calculations based upon the square footage of the building and the space that's being used across the site, you actually look at a requirement of 48 parking spaces for this type of manufacturing use. In discussions with the applicant, really 48 spaces is just way overkill for what they need. So they did provide some information for us. We did review that. This was very similar to what we asked them to do during the 2016 conditional use. At the same time, they had asked for a reduction in parking due to the fact that their manufacturing just didn't need the robust number of employees to make sure that their machinery worked and things like that. So in a similar way, we looked at it. You'll see that we are providing additional parking for the expansion. We're counting a few of the parking spaces that are located on Baker Street, which we'll say right now currently just has junked vehicles in it. So that this will be some more open space, especially once we get curb and gutter and sidewalk in there. And we'll have still ADA space parking requirements being met as well. And so staff does point out that we feel comfortable with the request and we feel like it's justified. That's something that you all can discuss, but we did feel good and we felt that that was the appropriate direction, and we felt that the added parking would meet the needs for parking on site. Let's see. I did mention we do have one loading area that's kind of located at the front of the building. That's a pre-existing loading area that was there in 2016. We've allowed that just to remain the same. It's actually really not used by the applicant. They just don't have that type of loading and unloading coming in at that site. They do have some smaller trucks that they'll use the back side of the building, but that's not typically used. We've allowed that just to remain as is, but it's not really causing any issues that we feel like at this point. Off-site noise, glare, odor, and effects. We feel that this use is appropriate. Since the original CUP, we really had no issues with the site. The site has continued to operate without complaints or anything like that. We're not having impacts to adjacent property owners or anything like that. Like I said, everything's contained within the buildings. Outdoor storage is limited. There's not really much going on outside. It's all inside. Refuse and service areas. There is a solid waste pickup located at the back of the property, southern end of the property, kind of situated behind the building, so it's screened and fully out of view from anywhere. There's a required pavement path all the way to the back there for any trucks to get back there, and so that meets our requirements, and you'll see that kind of noted in the conditions of approval as well. Utilities really aren't changing related to the site, served by water and sewer, power, and all those things. So we're not seeing any major changes or concerns there. Screening and buffering. We do have some screening fence that is being put in. You'll see a 6-foot fence that's going to be fully screen the site, basically being located on all sides of the site. This will reduce the visibility of any of the outdoor storage area, as well as kind of really actually buffer them from some of the more intense uses. You have a junkyard basically to the west of this site. I'll talk a little bit more about the fence when I talk more specifically about landscaping. Signs and exterior lighting. There was no signage proposed with the property at this point. That's fine. What we did note just in the conditions, signage is something that you consider as part of a conditional use. We did put a condition of approval in there, just noting that if they did want to have a sign in the future, it just needs to meet our signage requirements. We're not opposed to more signage on the site. They can have some, but since they didn't put it in here, we just added that so that it didn't have to come before you if they wanted some signage. There was a photometric plan provided. That's in your staff report. All the lighting levels meet all of our requirements for around the property line and things like that. So you're not, we don't have any issues there, and we're comfortable with the lighting plan as proposed. Once again, intensity and bulk of the site we feel is appropriate. Like we've said, really a reduction really in intensity from the ARC in 2016 in the ARC recycling facility, but really now with internal operations and things like that, it's very appropriate for this area and this kind of blended B2 C2 zoning district. We'll note too, the dwelling live work component, a little bit unique, but also feel like is appropriate as we continue to talk about housing in our community. This provides for an option for some living space within the site and business operation within that building that's on the west end of the site, utilizing more space on the property. So we have no issues related to public health, safety, or welfare in association with the conditional use. We have no issues with setbacks. All the setbacks are being met. There's no retaining walls. Landscaping, we will note, landscaping across the site in total technically has the required number of units that we would expect across the whole site. But like I mentioned, you're really limited in where you can place landscaping along like the 3rd Street corridor because of the existing building. And so what you'll see in the proposal and in the landscaping plans that are provided is you do have landscaping really concentrated along that Baker Street side. It's the most visible side where we can accommodate things like trees and bushes and all of that. There was pretty extensive discussion that we had with the applicant about what to do on that southern side of the site and on that western side of the site. The southern and western side of the site, you have kind of a parking area on the south side of the site and a building. So any landscaping that would go back there would pretty much not be seen. And then on the west side of the site, we do have a junkyard. And through some discussion, we felt that proposal of the screening fence, a unified screening fence around the whole property made sense. And trying to push as many of the units as we could to that front Baker side, which is what the landscaping plan reflects. Like once again, doesn't meet exactly the requirements of the code, but this is something that you all can consider, and we've included as kind of part of the staff report, and we do recommend that it makes sense there. So I will point out just there is a condition that when I get to the conditions of approval about the west side of the site that I'll give you a little bit more explanation about why we placed that condition in there. Finally, just a few of these last things, buffer yards. Buffer yards are proposed on the site, and we see those already pretty much existing along the site, which is where the landscaping goes in those areas that we could accommodate it. So a few other things, public comments, and we do public notice for all conditional use permits. We do send out the notice to property owners within 300 feet and post the property, as well as post in the Laramie Boomerang for this meeting. So if people want to attend, up to this point in the writing of the staff report, we've still received no public comments about the project. So as we noted, staff does recommend approval. You'll see some pretty basic conditions in the staff report. I'll point out a few of the conditions. We do require that the gate be opened that goes to the back part of the site on trash collection days, so that we can access the trash enclosure that's located in the back. I did note, and we just got done talking about the screening fence that's located along around the property. Condition 6 points out that during the surveying of this property and kind of working through this property, it was noted that where the actual property line is and where their fence is currently really isn't in the right place. And so you'll see on that west side, we've placed a condition in here to allow them to kind of like operate and do what they need to do on the site if they get everything else done while they're trying to work out this property essentially issue on the west side. It's our preference to give them time and not put a fence in so that they can put the fence in where they need it to go in the right time. So you'll see that's why the purpose of giving them a year there, so that they can hopefully work through that with the adjacent property owner. You'll see some other basic comments about parking, landscaping, which are all pretty standard here. You'll see some information in here about just the fencing, landscaping, removal of the existing fencing, the making sure that the site remains in conformance with what was submitted in terms of the site plan. Access and driveways being remained the same. We do denote on the site plan where outdoor storage is allowed and is not allowed. And then we do note that there's a couple shipping containers on the site that are not supposed to be there, that they have to be removed. And really just that all work for the site, building permits and things like that be properly applied for. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions. Like I said, we've got the applicant's owners, their engineers here. So if you have any questions specifically for them as well, I'm sure they'd probably be happy to answer questions. Chair, I don't know if they want to speak, like if you guys have a presentation or not, but okay, I'm getting a lot of head shake no's, so we'll leave it at that.
Looks like no to me.
Questions if they want. So, but that's all I've got.
Okay, thank you, Derek. Questions?
I don't know. Seems very thorough, very nicely presented staff report and your discussion. Seems pretty solid to me.
Derek? Yep. Donald? Well, being one of those old noisy, sparky, grinding, yelling kind of manufacturers in my previous life, I'm real glad to see some quiet people come to town. So, any discussion? Any questions for the applicant?
I guess the only question I had was, there's no possibility that, they keep the A and B shift, and that explains why they don't need the intensive parking. But what if, have they ever been in a situation where they needed to get a project done and they just needed a bunch of parking?
Chair Gustav Anderson, I'm the Director of Operations at Avid Corporation. I didn't quite fully hear your question. Could you hit me with that again?
So have you ever been so busy that you needed to kind of double up on one of the shifts so that you would basically the amount of parking that you have at present, which is plenty for your A and B shift situation, but if you got really busy, would you run into a problem?
It's a great question. So we're constrained by the quantity of machines we have on the location. So we currently have 22 CNC machines. One of our operations people typically will operate 2 to 3 machines per person. So adding more people doesn't necessarily get more done, because as you add people, the machines don't necessarily care to work any faster than they work. So any expansion would be going to stretching out the distance between the 2 shifts, or potentially going to a 3rd shift to run machines, more throughout the 24 hours available.
Sure. Thank you.
I just had one question. It appears that the residential building is separated from the manufacturing. It's not in the same building.
That's correct.
Okay, yeah, well, then there shouldn't have been too much of a problem with occupancy group separation kind of thing. The other question I have is, did you get 3-phase power in there?
Yes.
I tried for years, couldn't get it.
You write a big enough check, you can get what you need.
No, I wasn't on the planning commission at the time. Well, all I could say is good luck to you, and I hope you have a real successful business.
Thank you very much.
Well, I have one comment. Since landscaping couldn't happen on the Third Street side, how about a mural of vegetation? I mean, it's a beautiful stucco wall that is rather blank. Anyways, just a vegetative mural might be kind of cool.
Thank you for the suggestion. Any other questions?
No? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chair.
Staff, commission, any discussion? All right, Chair would be happy to entertain a public comment. Anybody online? Seeing none? The Chair would be happy to entertain a motion. Where'd it go?
I'll entertain the staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit to allow for renovations to the site and establishment of machining, manufacturing, and processing operations and dwelling, live, work, use located within the B2 business and C2 general commercial at 222 East Baker Street, based on findings of fact and conclusions of law and subject to all of staff's recommended conditions.
Second.
Have a motion and second. Do we need a roll call on a CUP? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Conditional use permit carries unanimously. Thank you for your time.
Good luck, guys.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, this meeting, any other business? I don't believe we have anything else. Long range planning. Okay,
Motion for adjourned.
yeah, let's go.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you much. Do I need to sign this?
Half an hour.
All right.